Well, I think with like many years, predictions weren't exactly accurate last year. It's been kind of stable for most people, I think, this year. We deal with a lot of different types of advice businesses, a lot of different affiliate partners, and there hasn't been any massive peaks or troughs, I don't think. Technology's continued to be high on the agenda, and naturally we're trying to stabilise our own proposition and make sure that we offer the best thing for our partners and for future partners. But by and large, I think it's been a sort of tick over year across the board, housing wise, mortgage rate wise. So yeah, nothing really to write home about. You're listening to the experts, and it's always difficult to be spot on with a prediction. There's indication that sort of after the middle of next year, maybe you might begin to see a little bit of a reduction in the rate, sort of generally from sort of base rate. So you might see mortgage rates reflecting a little bit of a lower rate there. I think in terms of house building, there's indication that new build might modestly increase, but there isn't anything forecasting huge growth. So that projects that there could be a bit of a swell in terms of house buying if those rates are a little bit lower. But maybe if the new build market isn't completely flourishing, there'll still be some stagnation in some areas. I guess what that means for advisors is they're going to have to continue to look at ways to diversify income and make sure that they're offering other products rather than just relying on income from that core product if you're a mortgage broker. So yeah, I think there could be some pockets of success, but largely mostly the same, I think, next year. I think the buzzword is AI, right? And that's not just in the GI market, that's sort of across the industry, across financial planning, wealth, mortgage, advice. And what that is maybe beginning to show more this year than previously is that advisors are now more open and more willing in mass to actually try different things. And across the industry, there's varying levels of how this is being implemented, right? There's sort of marginal things that might help customer engagement. Obviously, there's more technology across the board, specifically for maybe mortgage brokers and in insurance and insurtech that's implementing AI and making things more simple or more clever. I think we have certainly got our own strategy around that. We're working with some select strategic partners in how we can marry the idea and the right path for AI within our own business and the way that we do things. So watch out for that. But I think, across the industry, that's been the buzzword. Technology is continuing to sort of improve. Our partners are trying to find ways to implement better referral strategies. So if you put all of those sort of components together, we're trying to do something a little bit smarter next year, with our partners in mind and with the insurance gap across the industry in mind, really. The last few years, we've seen technology for us and for our partners and even our rivals has gotten to a particular point now where there's very few barriers that advisors can sort of state technology-wise that there's an issue. There's a lot of flexibility, there's a lot of different ways you can do business, whether you're writing it yourself or referring it. I think from a product and insurer perspective, again, I wouldn't predict any massive changes next year. There's not going to be huge new insurers coming to the market that we're aware of that might change the game. So, that means you're looking at a pretty similar sort of industry across the board for advisors when it comes to like home insurance technology and products that are available, pricing, those sorts of things. With that in mind, I think there's some real wholesale change that needs to happen if you're going to expect better results. We have our own designs on that. Obviously, we consider ourselves a real education leader across insurance in our marketplace, and how we develop better in that area I think is quite key. I think there needs to be some better ownership and maybe some different strategies from our national partners, from national advice businesses across the board in terms of implementing more strategic education plans for insurance for advisors. Otherwise, a lot of the same problems are going to be there, less penetration that's required, and ultimately those problems that we hear about regularly, comparison websites being the problem, low prices, there are already the remedies to those issues available, again, from us and from our rivals. It's about how we implement better strategies that can actually sort of get to the bottom of that. So yeah, I think that's something that will really need to change. I think if you look at referral as well, there's lots of different ways you can refer as an advisor in terms of if you want to pass that lead off, and there's real gaps across other insurance areas as well. So we're going to consider that and maybe evolve what we have at the moment to try and meet the huge requirement that is out there at the moment with this vast majority of brokers, advisors not being able to capitalise on the GI sort of gap. So yeah, that's what I'd expect from us to move in that direction. Anyone who's in the industry and is sort of got their finger on the pulse will know that there's a lot of change in the sort of landlord market and the renter market with the Renters' Rights Bill that's sort of being pushed through at the moment. We have a much better idea now what that impact is going to have. How that pertains to GI is, whereas at the moment maybe it's easier for an advisor to take an easy route out without recommending buy-to-let sort of or landlord-related insurance policies, that's going to be a harder thing to manage. Things like legal coverage, rent guarantee coverage, better coverage across the board in that area is going to be really key. We obviously have our designs on that. We've been speaking a lot about where we believe that marketplace to be going, so it's important for us to make sure that we're aligned with what advisors need, and we'll continue to work towards that. It's an opportunity, but there is some work to be done to get it right. We talked a little bit about some of the ideas we have. Over the last couple of years, we've built a really strong foundation in technology that answers what advisors need, gives flexibility. We've also curated a panel on both household and the buy-to-let side of our business, which serves advisors in what they need now. We have ancillary products around the core products. Next, I think what it is about for us is making sure that we work more strategically with some of our key partners, some new businesses that we have in the sort of pipeline, with some more targeted approaches. Things like referral. We launched SourceGo a couple of years ago. We've been able to gather an awful lot of data, an awful lot of feedback in the last few years around what's required. I think the market is more accepting now to the concept of what SourceGo is. Low prices, high quality products, simple, slick technology. But there's a next step to that now. If you think about what we've talked about today around what the market is looking for. I've alluded to the education piece. I think there's another step over the line now on the education element of the industry. You can't it's not enough to signpost educational content. I feel like you need to take it to the next stage, and I think we can potentially do a little bit more there. But yeah, apart from that, listen, we've got a huge pipeline of new businesses. We were added to some new network panels this year, which is great news, and we'll continue to build with those sorts of partners as well as existing DA clubs and national partners as we're ready to have a big 2026, and everything's in line to make sure that happens.